side. But generally, I think everything should be both thinkable and sayable. And that principle matters more to me than the feelings of anyone who might be hurt by any violation of it. But it should be noticed that again, speaking about the country I know best in Europe, my country of birth, the warnings of what was coming by way of Islamist intolerance, by the way of the importing into Great Britain of communities from the extremely backward and feudal and underdeveloped parts of North Africa and Pakistan. People who were arranged marriages to cousins down the generations, and the terrible consequences such as deformed births that become our second nature. People like Nadim Aslam, for example, who's written this wonderful book about the Yorkshire Muslim community called Maps for Lost Lovers, or Hanif Qureshi, who wrote My Son the Extremist, no, My Son the Terrorist, My Son the Fanatic, Hanif Qureshi. Monica Ali, the author of Brick Lane, Salman Rushdie, most famously. All these people were telling liberal Westerners, we come from these Muslim populations. We know what they're like. Don't you let them get away with this, and don't you let them guilt trip you into saying the criticism of this is racist. Don't let that happen to you. All these people are friends of mine. I'm very proud to count them as such. Very important, but all of them, of course, are free from any religiosity of their own, Islamic or any other kind. Regard the emancipation of people from religion as the main emancipation that human society can hope to experience, which is my own view.
So there.
Anyway, in this country, it's nothing to do with them. I think the reason why I say Lawrence Wright wasn't criticized, Jeremiah Wright wasn't criticized till recently. Al Sharpton can be called in the New York Times, he's always called the civil rights activist. How did he get that to be called that? What has he ever done to get himself called that? Al Sharpton, has he ever done anything for civil rights anyone knows about? Active, yes. Active in pinching himself every morning, I'm going to get away with it again by this time tonight. 4 people will have had me on TV and sent me a limo and called me Rev. He can't believe his luck. All he proves is in this country, anyone who put the word Reverend in front of their name can get away with that. But that's not just a problem of people being reluctant to criticize racism. It is, unfortunately, a criticism of a great man who was murdered 40 years ago, Sweeney, because the decision by almost every white person in America to conclude that what the colored folks like is a bit of shout and holler from the pulpit. They like a good preacher when they're talking about political and social and other kinds of freedom. Has been a hugely retrogressive thing. It's meant that the great black socialists and secularists like Philip Randolph and Bayard Rustin, the people who actually organized the March on Washington, and did the spade work to get it done, and the groundwork, and got the United Automobile Workers to co-sponsor a great contribution from Michigan, incidentally, are written out of the record completely. It's all preacher now. Preacher men. So anyone who can call themselves that, who can pose as a religious figure, whether it's Farrakhan or Sharpton or Jackson, these frauds and crooks and big mouths and bigots themselves, for the most part, gets a free pass from white society. So it is partly true what Peter says, that it's because of race guilt tripping, but it's also because of a totally exaggerated deference to men of the cloth that's also allowed frauds and crooks like Pat Robertson and Jerry Falwell and John Hagee, and now the wonderfully named Ron Parsley. Is it Ron or Roger Parsley? Rod Parsley, a Woodhousian, new McCain evangelical demagogue in the Midwest, to flourish. Whereas people trying similar sorts of bigotry and demagogy without the prefix Reverend wouldn't have a prayer, quite rightly. Or I mean to say, a chance. Wouldn't be given the opportunity. Would be right, lying to children for a living is a pretty contemptible way, I think, to go through life. And these guys do it all the time, and they get called Reverend into the bargain. Woof. And if they were only lying to the children, when they rape and torture the children, they're only accused of abusing them. What would anyone be called who did that who wasn't in holy orders? Be called a rapist or a torturer. Now he's an abuser.
Or an organization.
This is a free pass given to the clerisy. All this should end. The United States should be much prouder of its secular constitution and willing to stick up for it.
Peter, it looks as if the thought is just on the edge of you.
It's staying with it.
Broad parts.